All right, let's do it to it. Oh, which there we go. Hello everybody, Soul Commodore back at you again with another edition of some painting today. Hey, Al, fantastic timing. Yeah, indeed. Finished dishes and now we get to relax and do some art. So, welcome on in. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. Um, But yeah, so we're going to be doing something new today. We're going to be doing some new painting. You can see I've already kind of started the prep work on this. But yeah, it's some new exciting work. We're also starting with a new palette. Starting with a new palette today. This is K-Tel's Disco Fire. Now, K-Tel is obviously the oh, what is it? What word am I looking for? Um, they are the label that produced this, and it's just a disco compilation album. Um, I do like disco music, but I don't need this album. That's a good idea, El. So we have "Best of My Love" by The Emotions, which is a fantastic song, but I would argue is not a disco song. Um, "Surprise" by Andre Gagnon, "Dancing Fever" by Claudia Berry, "Under My Thumb" by Ronnie Jones, "Blackwater Gold" by Sunshine Band, and then oh, that was side two. Side one is "Let's All Chant" by the Michael Zager Band, "La Vie en Rose" by Grace Jones, "Which Way Is Up" by Stargard, "Flight to Versailles" by Grand Tour, and "Love Maker" by Wham. Now, um, the three acts that I have heard of are The Emotions, who The Emotions actually Maurice White from Earth, Wind and Fire actually produced a lot of their work, and they worked with Earth, Wind and Fire. Like they're the background singers on Boogie Wonderland, which was a huge hit for Earth, Wind and Fire. And he produced and wrote a lot of stuff for them, and Earth, Wind and Fire actually played on a lot of the Emotions songs. But they were very yeah, they did disco too. Now it's interesting because I don't know if this is KC in the Sunshine Band. I'm guessing it is, but they just have Sunshine Band here, which is weird. But I'll count them, so it'll be four groups. So the Emotions, if this is indeed KC and the Sunshine Band, obviously heard of them. Um, Grace Jones. Actually, Grace Jones got a lot more famous during the 80s. This record, I think, came out in 1979. Um, 78 or 79. But she got a lot more famous in the 80s. Her most famous song, I would say, is probably a song called Slave to the Rhythm. She also had fantastic, maybe Casey was on vacation. Yeah, maybe. Uh, um, Grace Jones has a fantastic song called Slave to the Rhythm, and she was very much in tune with the art world and actually did some pretty groundbreaking designs for her album covers. Also, very famously married to David Bowie. Um, and of course, Wham, who weren't really a disco band, as you know. They did a lot of bubblegum pop and just pop in general. Wake Me Up Before You Go, Careless Whisper, all that kind of stuff. Um, Again, got more famous in the 80s, but apparently started in the 70s. The rest of these groups, Andre Gagnon, Claudia Berry, Ronnie James, Michael Zager Band, Stargard, Grand Tour, I've never heard of any of those groups. So that's what we're working with. This is going to be our new palette. Um, so, and again, it's not so much that I don't like this music. I Best of My Love is one of my favorite songs. But I have the Emotions album that Best of My Love is on, so I don't need it on a compilation album. And the rest of these songs, I can just YouTube them if I want to. Put them on Spotify. I don't know. I don't need them on here. So that's what we're working with. Um, Now I'm thinking, you know what? Let's just start painting, and then I'll explain what it is that we're doing a little bit later. But let's start with some paint. So today You're gonna have to start scanning Goodwill for shitty records at some point. Yeah, yeah. I've got two more records that I bought specifically to use as palettes. I've got two of them left, but I imagine by the time this big project that I'm working on, starting with this, well, not starting with this, but this included, I am probably gonna need. I probably am gonna need some new palettes soon. So yes, I'll have to go to some secondhand stores and figure out what I'm gonna do. But this, for this particular painting, we're actually only going to be using two colors, which is odd because usually I use the standard five: red, white, blue, black, and yellow. But today we're just doing yellow and white because there's a certain tone that I'm going to look for, or that I'm going to try and do. So I'm gonna finish these stripes and then I will sit down and go over what these new ideas for this new exhibition I came up with are. And part of the reason I'm doing that is because I've got the paint right in front of me, and my booklet with all the ideas and everything is over there. So I'll go get that once we're done with this. There we go. Okay, got that going. Oh, there is one thing I forgot. I have to rep this. Unfortunately, my Phoenix Suns lost yesterday. They lost their series against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They were swept, in fact, lost 4 games to none in their series. But hey, they're still my favorite basketball team. I would say out of all the sports, they're my biggest fandom because I started liking these dudes. I started liking Phoenix. They became my team like when I was 7 years old. So they've been the team that I've been a fan of the longest out of all the sports that I watch. So I still got to rep them, even though they lost. That's okay. You can't win them all. All right. So we're going to be doing a very pale yellow. Um, I didn't particularly like the tone of the yellow that was on here because there was a little bit too much, little bit like I added a touch of black, so it's a little bit of a yellow gray, and it was a little bit too much. So now I'm going back in with just some plain old, plain old yellow and white. I'm gonna get all the water out of the brush. But I hope you all are having a good Monday so far, or Tuesday if it's Tuesday where you're at, because I mean it might be. But I hope you're having a good day so far. I just worked today, so nothing too exciting. Still reveling in how well the surprise party for my wife went on the weekend. Okay, let's see if this is more than. Yeah, that's more the tone that I want. There we go. Wait, tell me about the part. Oh, that's right. That's right. You weren't in the stream yet when I was talking about it yesterday. Um, so my wife's birthday was earlier this month, but I secretly set up a surprise party uh, with a bunch of family and friends because it's a milestone birthday. It's her 30th birthday, right? And I thought she should have a party with her family and friends. Um, so the two friends of ours that live downstairs in the basement apartment took her out for the day. Took her to a cat cafe for the day, while we set up here because I organized with her parents, so they came over early to bring some stuff, and then some family and friends started showing up, um, and yeah, we just had a good time. And then my wife came home. She was extremely surprised. She didn't see it coming. So it was a good day. It was a good time, and a complete surprise. Like I was so thankful that it didn't get spoiled for her. You know, not that I expected anyone to spoil it for her, but my wife is pretty good at like sussing things up. It's hard to keep things from her. So uh, it was a good time. And in the morning, she got to hang out with a bunch of cats. There was a cat named Mika or Micah, I think it's Mika, um, that basically like climbed up on her lap while they were at the cafe and all that. So she was very very happy, and then came home to a surprise. Yeah, that's much more the tone that I want. She always sounds like such a cool, smart lady when you talk about her. So I assumed you'd be worried she'd figure it out. Oh yeah, yeah. She is all those things, and yes, I was worried that she'd figure it out, but thankfully that didn't pass. This is a very very pale yellow. That's exactly the color that I want. So yeah, my plan is that I'll paint these five stripes in that we're painting this color. Um, and once that's done, I'll sit down with y'all and open up my notebook and tell you all the notes that I took about what I'm planning to do for this show. Because this piece is going to be part of the Anybody But Myself exhibition that I'm putting together, that I'm sure you've heard me talk about before. And if not, well, you're hearing me talk about it today. I don't need it to be an even color all the way down. Um, I just wanted it to be a brighter yellow than what I had before, which is what this is. So, or I guess brighter is a not quite the term, a paler yellow than what it was before. Yellow is one of the harder colors, um, just because of the nature of the pigment, the paint itself. It is a harder color to get a consistent evenness with. But we're gonna try our best. And unlike most of the other paintings that I do, this one came pre-stretched because this and the other two canvases this size um, were given to me by one of my wife's cousins who wasn't going to use them, so figured they figured that I could use them for something. So, and then I told her to send me her email so that I could like e-transfer her some money because these canvases this size to buy them in a store it would be pricey. And I was like, hey, you know, I want to send you some money. And then she never sent me her email, so I'm gonna have to hound her on that. Oh, I saw a video about a pigment store yesterday where you just buy all the stuff to make your own paints, and I was like, I'm too poor for this hyperfixation, but I want it. Yeah, I mean that sounds cool. That sounds cool. Making your own pigments sounds like it'd be fun. I had a teacher at university, a professor, who said that he was going to teach us how to make our own pigments, and then he never did. And then we called him out on it, and he told us that that wasn't what he was there for. He was there to teach us concepts to make our paintings better, but he wasn't there to teach us how to paint, and he wasn't there to teach us how to make paints. Which is like, well, then you lied on the syllabus because that's what the syllabus says we were going to do this year. He and I did not get along, and it made it worse. Like sometimes you butt heads with professors, and we it's not like we ever butt heads, um, but it's one thing when you don't like a way that a professor teaches, but he had us do a studio visit. Well, I mean, it was optional; we didn't have to, but we went on a studio visit with him. Um, Actually, that was kind of fun because my sister came up to visit, and I took her along with me uh, to visit his studio and look at his work. And it's one thing if you don't particularly like the way a professor teaches, and it's like, okay, well, whatever. You're not gonna like. But I didn't like his artwork either. And when you don't respect the artwork, it's like, oh man, what a rip! Promise broken. So I'm not here to waste my money on a college course that doesn't do what it's supposed to. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, none of us were very happy that day. That class was interesting because, I mean, truth be told, I don't know if anybody was non-binary at the time. Nobody came out as binary, non-binary, while I was in that class. Like none of my classmates did, or trans or anything. So, as it stands, I was the only male in the class, other than the professor. Um, and it was pretty eye opening to hear like just some of the conversations that the women in the class were having about like things that they have to deal with all the time. It was pretty eye opening to me because obviously like um, I've heard that stuff from like female friends and like my mom and my sister. Um, but at that time, you're like 22 years old and you're like, oh yeah, no, I know, but you don't really know until you hear like an entire class discussion about all that kind of stuff because the professor hasn't shown up yet, and you're like, man, it's rough out there for women. So it was very that was a very educational day for myself. There was a woman in that class who really enjoyed my work, and I wish I'd stayed in contact with her. You know, not for any romantic reasons or anything like that, because she had a boyfriend, but just because like it's tough to find champions of your work, and it's always nice to have people in your corner who like what you're doing, you know. Because the professor in that class certainly didn't like the things I was doing. He was not a fan of my work. I'd be so mad if I got bait and switched like that. Yeah. Yep. It was a definite reason, well, one of the many reasons why in fourth year I got very disillusioned with school, which I never thought would happen, but there it was. Yeah, that year was not a great time, school was. And it was rough watching everybody. And I'll talk about this a little bit later. Um, it was rough watching all my friends graduate because I didn't graduate that year. I was supposed to, but I didn't have enough credits because I had failed too many courses, so I wouldn't graduate for another 2 years. But it was uh, it was tough watching everybody else graduate and you kind of left behind. All right, so that's three of them. I was disillusioned with school in like the fourth grade. Fair, fair. That is fair enough. I know a fair amount of people like that who have the same sentiment. I apologize for the clanging. This canvas isn't sitting flush on the wall, so I have to kind of hold the bottom of it to make sure it doesn't move around too much. I was that kid in elementary and high school that like everything kind of came naturally to me, so I didn't try that hard. Um, so I didn't really learn how to study. I didn't really learn how to, actually like learn. So university, I mean, there were a lot of reasons that school, I got disillusioned with university. Um, but I mean, part of it is my own fault because I didn't apply myself like I should have. That part I can't blame on the institution at all. That was my own doing. But there were a lot of other parts that I was like, this is actually kind of bullshit. I need some command strips, yeah. Those actually work pretty well. But no, I got to a point with my art classes where I realized like 4 years in that with very few exceptions, I hadn't really learned anything. I hadn't really been taught anything. Um, I mean, my first year art teacher almost ran me out of the program. I mean, she didn't do that on purpose, but like I almost quit art, almost quit my major first year because I was so disheartened by her critiques of every single thing that I did. Thankfully, my second year professor was great. He was a great professor, a great teacher, and he wrote me back in. I was a gifted kid, but not in the gifted classes. Ah, I see. I see. Yep. So I might have to come back and go over these ones again because that's more the tone that I want down there. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. In the meantime, get to work on this one. So this yellow color is actually going to be on all three of the paintings that I'm planning for this particular segment of the show. So so I have to remember the ratio that I used for it. I mean, it's not an exact ratio, but I had a programming teacher who made me quit programming in college. Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, the teacher that almost made me quit in first year, she was another one where I didn't really respect her work. And it's again, it's one thing to not like the professor and the way they teach, you know? It's one thing. It's another thing when you see their work and you're like, oh man, I don't even like your art. So how am I going to take anything that you say seriously? Which isn't the right attitude to have, admittedly, all these years later. But it's still quite the conflict of, man, I don't even like what you're doing, and you're gonna sit here and critique my stuff. Which, I mean, yeah, that's how it works. But when you're 18, 19 years old, it's a tough pill to swallow. Okay. Now that we've it's amazing how much power teachers hold, and we keep throwing bad or demotivated people into the jobs because it pays. Yeah, it does not pay well enough to retain people who are actually good and motivated to teach, which is a tragedy. It really is. Because when you've got a teacher body in a school that isn't motivated to teach, I mean, it leads to a bunch of students who aren't motivated to learn. Add in the fact that a lot of school budgets are based on property values and property taxes, and you've got school boards that aren't motivated to give these schools any more money, so that people can, so they can attract better staff and help the kids achieve. It's all just a big mess. That was a big trip to me when I got older and learned that school budgets are determined by property tax. So of course, areas that are disenfranchised and has much lower property taxes and property values, those schools and those districts don't get that much money, which is, oh, what a great system. It's a pretty good even tone, if I do say so myself.
Hey, no worries. No worries. We'll be here for a bit.
And I'm gonna have to let those dry a little bit more. But in the meantime, I can wash off my brush. Just because I noticed that what's happening a little bit is as I put new paint on, it's starting to lift some of the paint that was underneath it, which just means that that paint is still a little bit too wet. So I have to let it dry just a little bit more. So let's wash off this brush. Let it completely dry. Or at least as dry as we can get it. And then I'm gonna take this painting off the wall and I'm gonna start taking this paint off, or start taking the tape off. See how well we did. I can see a couple of areas where the tape lifted a bit, but that's okay. This doesn't have to be perfect on this first pass. Not much leakage at all. Nice. I'm gonna angle this down a little bit, actually. You can see what we're doing. There we go. A little bit of the pencil's coming through, but that's okay. Just pencil. This is working out much better than last time I tried to use tape on a paint. This is kind of a therapeutic, actually. Peeling this paint off, or peeling this tape off. Go this way with this one. Oh, this tape really worked really well. I'm very surprised. Pleasantly surprised. flip this around. Oh, that didn't even really leak through. It bubbled up a little bit, like the tape bubbled up. So I thought some tape, or I thought some paint got underneath a little bit, but no. All right. That piece of tape had a bunch of like hair on it. Must have accidentally like raised it across the ground or something. It's got just a little lower so you can see this last one. Use me. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this off to the side to dry a little bit, and we'll start working on another one. We're gonna tape it first, and then we'll oh, that's the wrong way. We're gonna tape up the edges that we need to paint yellow first, and then we'll get it up on the wall and paint it. So let me just pull up the design that I need to see where the yellow is actually gonna be. So where's the wire on the back here? Here. Well, I'm gonna take this wire out actually, I think. But for the purposes of this, so it'll be these four, and then one near the other end. Okay. This is what I meant on Twitter next when I took that, or Twitter, on Twitter and Blue Sky, X on Blue Sky and Blue Sky. When I said that today was going to be a lot of what we were working on. But that's all right. This is part of the art making process. It's just as important as any other process. So. I mean, actually putting something on the canvas is arguably the more fun thing to do, but you can't get there without doing this part. You know, if this is the kind of thing that you're doing. better. It's a better line. So I don't know about you guys, where it is that you're living, but the weather seems to finally have turned here, where we're actually finally getting some warm days. Today's a little bit cooler, but tomorrow's supposed to be a pretty warm day, and the day after too, which is nice. I don't think when I drew some of these lines in that they were perfectly straight, so I'm just gonna let it. I'm just gonna let it be. I'm just gonna let it be. Let it be what it is. I'm gonna make sure that this bit lines up with the one over here. That's as far as I'm gonna worry about it. Like the mark on this side of the line, to this side, I'm gonna make sure they line up, and beyond that, I'm not gonna worry about it. So that's 1, 2, 3. This one. Yeah. I'm glad that this tape works so well. Because I know sometimes it can be a little iffy. Yeah. Line went a little bit wonky on that one. That's okay. All right. This will be the last one on this side of the painting, and then yeah. I'm gonna flip it around the other end. Do the last one. Okay, so this one on this end, how many in is it? 1, 2, 3. So it's this third one, or fourth one, I should say. Yeah. Then there should be 2, 3, 4. Yep. Yep. On each of these, there's 15 stripes. Which measuring that out was a trip, because these canvases are, for selling purposes, they're 32 by 48. But in actuality, they're more like 31.5 by 47.2, I think. So they're not actually 32 by 48. But they can be sold under that measurement. Okay. There we go. Oh, welcome back, Ella. We were just doing some taping on another canvas while we're letting this other one dry. So welcome back. I got a blood blister on my thumb. Uh, what's my plan with these? I am glad that you asked because that is what we will be discussing with my little notebook here. So I'll actually hold up the sketches and all that to this camera. Um, because that'll be more fun to look at. Actually, before I do that, I'm gonna hang this back up on the wall. Angle the this camera back up, and then it's really it's a really thin wire. I'm probably gonna have to replace that wire, but that's for later. Okay, let me angle this back up. There we go. Okay, so I went to an artist meetup where it turns out I was the only one there. But I went to the Station Gallery because they have these artist meetup nights on Monday nights. Um, and this was a couple of weeks ago. And I started sketching up some ideas for anybody but myself. Now, here's some of the sketches. Now, these here, I'm going to do 48 of these drawings. We've seen me do these before on stream. They're the charcoal drawings where some like the face is kind of blurred out, right, or distorted in some way with paint. And I've shown those off. Did a couple of them on stream. Now, to go along with these is this here, and this is what we're working on here. So basically, what it is it's kind of a mosaic type of strip. So every single color that you see, so this one, for instance, is going to be yellow, kind of a muted purple, and a muted red, right? And then I'm going to lay in, I haven't decided whether it's going to be a painting or a drawing, but it's going to be a figure. And it's going to be one figure per color. And it's going to be, what's the term I'm looking for? So for instance, like it'll be from the shoulders up, like someone's head, like a figure's head on the yellow, right? And on the red and on the purple. And then I'm going to separate them out so that you only get segments of these heads and they're kind of interspersed with each other. That's the sketch there. They're interspersed within each other so that it ends up being kind of an abstract figure. But it'll be three different people all laid out. And the idea behind it is the show's called Anybody But Myself. And I mean, how many different people are we really inside, right? That we portray to other people, whether it's people we know, strangers, colleagues, friends. You know, we're different people to different. We're different people to different people. So this is going to kind of represent that, and it's going to be 9 different people basically, and they're all going to be people I know, and it's actually going to be all people I've already convinced one of my cousins to do it. It's going to be people that I know personally. It's not going to be figures that I make up. It's not going to be like references off the internet. It's going to be people that I know personally, and people who, in one way or another, I've wished that I was, you know, because of some aspect of their personality. At one point or another, and it's never been like a man, I really wish I was that person. It's more like, man, I wish I had that, you know. So it ends up being another level of personal. There's I'm blanking on the name, but I was inspired to do this because there was a guy who did it, who had a similar type of thing, who I saw on Instagram, and I'm really bummed that I'm forgetting his name, but or her name, because I actually, or their name, I don't know what gender they are. I'm really bummed that I can't remember their name. But they did a similar thing, but it was an animation and it was two people. It was the same person, but looking two different ways, and the animation was basically uh, both heads on it were like ended up looking the opposite way, and it was kind of, and I was like, oh, you know what? That's kind of a cool idea. Let me expand upon it and do different people all looking different ways, and it won't be an animation; it'll be static. Um, and let me actually put some color in it because theirs was black and white. Um, but I caught some inspiration there. So that's my plan with these. Um, and I said here that another thing that I'm going to have to go along with this, I'm not quite sure whether it's going to be grouped in with the drawings with the distorted faces in these. But one thing I want to do too is a crowd, um, and that's this one here, a crowd of people um, where everyone else's faces are blurred out, but one person is looking at the camera and looking very worried, and they're like crystal clear, and everyone else is blurred out. Um, but the one person is looking at the camera nervously, you know. Um, and then let's see what else we got here. Now I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that in that room or save it for another room where the video is gonna be, and I'm gonna get to the video in a minute. Um, but I'm also gonna do 10 uh, taller, skinnier paintings of a figure doing something or other, and then I'm going to paint it so that it looks like uh, it's a different person's face sketched over that face, and it's going to look like that face was like torn from something else and taped onto the painting. Um, and you know, for preservation purposes and all that, like I'm not going to use actual tape, but it's going to look like it's taped. Um, and I'm basing this on the layout of the station gallery. But this can really go on any gallery. There's also this idea I had of like a bunch of like small little paintings. I was thinking like maybe 14 of them of like altered, well, I said altered, blurred, striated silhouettes. And that would go with some kind of sculptural element in the middle of the room. That I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with yet, or if I'm even going to do this for this show. I'm not sure, but it's an idea that I had. Um, and then in the final room, what I want to do is um, these 10 figures here. I'm gonna have a video accompaniment, and the video is going to be uh, two different types of shots. Um, it's going to be um, blurred videos of me safely, which is I'm gonna like mount my camera of me driving to places or walking through crowds or just like overlooking sort of landscapes. And it's gonna be blurry, out of focus, um, and there's gonna be a voiceover during those scenes of me reading times that I wish uh, that I was someone other than myself. Now, it might be my voiceover, or it might be other people's voices as well. Like I might hire some of my friends, or maybe my wife, to like read off some stuff, you know, so that it's not just me. Um, but all of the times that are going to be talked about in the video are going to be uh, my own moments, right, where I wished I was somebody other than myself. Um, And to go along with the one picture of the person who's nervous in a crowd, I'm thinking in that room, I'm going to have a picture of me amongst a crowd of people, like when I was a kid, looking nervous. Because I think there's a number of pictures of me as a kid looking nervous. So, uh, and yeah, the visuals that I'm gonna have, uh, crowds, landscapes, traveling, it's gonna be put together. Paying your wife will be funny if you share finances. We do share some finances, but we also have our separate finances as well. But yeah, that would be funny. Um, but these little vignettes with like the blurriness and all that, every time there's a voiceover, it's gonna switch like it's a slideshow. Like you know those old slides where you like on the carousel where you switch to the next one. It's gonna be like that, basically, except in video form, like a projector. And I'm gonna throw in projector sound effects as well. Um, and a lot of these videos, intercut with those, are going to be videos of me um, from a static camera, like a tripod, where I'm gonna like drive up somewhere and then get out of my car and like leave it and either like look over something or I'm gonna just walk away from my car. You know, um, to kind of, I feel like that'll give an element of like wanting to get away from yourself, right? In some way or another. Um, and those will be intercut um, with the blurry images and the voiceovers. During those scenes, there won't be any voiceover. It'll just be that. Um, and yeah, and then I started writing down some of the moments where I've so I'll read some of these. Um, some of the moments where I wished I was someone other than myself. Some of them are from childhood. Some of them are from more recently. I mean, there's been less. Uh, there's been less of them as I've gotten older, thankfully. But one major one is I'm going to talk about how the night, like my mom died in the morning. That night, I remember I was sitting on our stairs in the dark, just kind of stewing as you would. Um, and in that moment, I wished I was someone other than myself. You know, there's a time when I was a kid um, where I did an interpretive dance to a CC Winans song for some relatives, and they were not impressed whatsoever. And I kind of wanted to shrivel up and die, and wished I was someone other than myself in that moment. Um, oh, the when I was a kid, the very first nightmare that I remember is yeah, there I mean I love these relatives. It was just one moment where like it was a little rude. But you know, we all have those moments. They're not thankfully I can say they're not consistently rude relatives. Um, it was just a moment where it was like, okay, you know, not their best moment. Um, when I was a kid, the first nightmare that I remember having, I was like 4 or 5 years old, and I dreamt that my mom fell down the stairs in our basement and fell on a spike. And when I woke up from that, I wished I was someone other than myself because I didn't know how nightmares worked. Um, when I was a kid again, I got matched up on a play date with some kid who like lived down the street, and we played Smash Brothers. And he would not let me play because he didn't feel I was good enough at the game. And I really wished I was back home, and I wish I was someone else. Now that one's a more humorous one. I wished I was someone else so that I wouldn't have to deal with this freaking kid. But basically, like he was relatives with someone that we went to church with, and I wish he was someone else. Yeah. Um, but they thought that we would be good friends because he was a year older than me, and we lived close, you know. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go meet this kid, and you know. But yeah, it didn't work out. Um, when I was in grade 8, I asked a girl out, and you know what? To her credit, because kids can be cruel, she wasn't even cruel. She just wasn't into me in that way, right? And she let me down easy. But I didn't ask someone out for another. Let's see, I would have been 14. Yeah, I would have been 14. I didn't ask someone out for another 8 years. Maybe I was 13, but either way, like I didn't ask someone else out until like third year of university. Um, and in that moment, I felt like I wanted to be someone else. In university one night, a friend of mine, um, or a couple of friends of mine, got together. Um, I hadn't let my feelings be known for the one friend, and then they got together. and then I got drunk, and then I uh, walked out to a hill that was not far from our house, but it was near. It wasn't very close either, and I just kind of sat there and cried, and then I walked home and went to bed. Um, that moment, I wished I was someone else. Uh, there was a night where I had like a really tough time with my asthma while we were camping, but it was like a youth camp, um, so it wasn't with family. So I was too embarrassed to like tell someone, like a counselor, like, "Hey, I need to go. Can we go get my inhaler, like a new inhaler or something?" So I just kind of suffered with it. But a friend was getting annoyed with or no, it wasn't a friend of, maybe it was a friend. I don't, someone else in the cabin that was with us was getting really annoyed at my wheezing. Um, it made their annoyance known, and it's like I can't help the way I'm breathing. Um, and then university, I had a roommate in first year who um, was quoting the very problematic Rushton statistics in which he proclaimed that black people were less intelligent than other races. Um, and he was talking about that theory while I was in the room. Um, I was very angry, but also in that moment, I wished I was somebody else. And part of that being someone else is I wish I was somebody who would be more demonstrably angry, you know, because I did call him out on it, but also like I could have done more about it. Um, so yeah. So that's oh, and then one of the things I wrote here too is like not graduating with my friends because I had flunked out of too many courses, um, and was completely disillusioned with school, kind of disillusioned with how my life was going at the time because I was gonna have to go back to Chatham, and try and find work, you know. So just stuff like that. So it's gonna be a bunch of voiceovers. It'll either be my voice or it'll be my voice and other people's as well. Like the ones that are more personal, like my mom and all that. Like talking about that. Like I'll probably read those ones. But the ones about asking someone out, like someone else could do that voiceover. But we'll see how it goes. Um, but yeah, so those are the main things that I'm thinking about doing for anybody but myself. Um, but let me catch up with what you were saying here, Al. Um, too embarrassed to save your own damn life. I feel that in my toes. Yeah. Now that I'm older, it's like, hey, I'm just gonna leave myself and go get a new inhaler somewhere. Um, that guy sounds like he was targeting you. He sounds so smug. He was not great. He was kind of smug. Um, he and I did not jive. But again, I was too nice to like be too confront him, too confrontational with him. But yeah, I was happy to be out of that dorm room after the first year. Um, Especially after that, because that happened like the first week we were in school too. It wasn't even like like 3 months in. You can't solve everything with punching, but I kind of wish you were allowed to try. Yeah. You can't say that he wouldn't have deserved it. But yeah. So there's a bunch of other moments in my life where I wished I was someone else. And again, there hasn't been very many recently, which I'm very thankful for. You know. Hey, RA, can I get a roommate who isn't a raging racist? Yeah. It's really interesting too, because like the rest of the uh, floor I was on, they were all really great people. Like I'm still friends with a few of them, like where we talk on the regular. But hey, you can't always win them. All right, we're gonna go back to some painting now. But yeah, that's basically what these pieces are going to be about. It'll be easier to kind of visualize once I start putting the figures in here. Um, I'm sure it'll be easier to see it, but
I gotta hold this one in place too. It's making noises while I paint. And again, my ideas for this show is that like it's going to be very personal, but also I think relatable for a lot of people. Because I feel like a lot of people have felt like they wish that they were someone else at times in their lives, you know? Because I spent a good number of years not liking myself very much. Um, Part of that is due to my shyness that I had when I was a kid. Um, Part of that was due to the fact that when I was a kid and a teenager and in university, I was very, very overweight, um, and did not like that part of myself. Um, and that's sometimes something that I struggle with. Um, you know, because sometimes I still look in my mirror and I still see that person. You know, um, especially because I'm a little bit heavier than I want to be right now. But I have a better mindset about it now, where it's like, you know, a much better mindset than I had when I was younger. Um, yeah, for a long time, like my self esteem was just shot, and it certainly didn't help when I, didn't graduate with everybody else. Um, so because like I said, in university, like I was coming from high school where I was the smart guy. I knew everything. I was going to excel, and then all of a sudden, it's like actually no. You know, so
If the canvases are rocking, someone please if the canvases are rocking, don't come a knocking. Wait, that doesn't work. If the canvases are rocking, someone come please hold it. It's really annoying. I'm trying to paint.
yeah, I should make that into a bumper sticker. Yo, I didn't realize this until I got online. Like, but apparently people get really mad at a lot of like really like non-problematic bumper stickers. I didn't realize this. I haven't thought. Oh, that's my wife's sneezing. I thought she said my name, but she was just sneezing. But I didn't realize so many people are so vehemently against bumper stickers. Like the one, like say, like the ones of like the families, show like members of the family, like the stick figures. Man, people hate those. At least online they do. And it's like I can't say that I've ever thought that hard about anybody's bumper stickers, or really thought anything about them, unless they have like bumper stickers that are outwardly like racist or problematic. But
I was so sad when I found out the coexist one is stolen art. I didn't know it was stolen art. So, thank you for teaching me something. I didn't realize that. That's very annoying. I had no idea that was stolen. Okay, there we go. That's two. Three more to go. Then I'm not sure we'll get to the third one, but maybe we will. I don't know. That one I might have to paint on the ground though, because I don't think I put a wire on it. The stick figure ones I just think are a bad idea. Like here's my whole family and my license plate. Bet you can find out where I live now. Uh,
that you know that have a really nice minivan and several children who probably have their all their own electronics. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I think I've seen people say that like where they don't hate it, but for those reasons, it's like yeah, you're kind of advertising to everyone like personal information, right? Someone I used to work with got a personalized license plate that is their name, which is like what? Why would you do that? That didn't make any sense to me. But yeah, I guess that one does have some merit. I mean, all of them have merit. I mean, you can feel however you want about something, but it just surprised me. I think I'd ever get a personalized license plate. Yeah, I wouldn't get any vanity plates. Plus, all the ones that would have anything that I would really want on them are probably taken already. So, wouldn't even be worth it. Get R. Kelly tracking you down with a bunch of stick figure and dresses, and you got oh. Well, I mean, the man's in prison now, so at least, at least, probably won't be him. Man, oh man. I've talked on here many times about separating the art from the artist, but there's music that I don't think I ever really need to listen to again. I mean, Remix to Ignition is a good song, but it ain't worth the what R. Kelly did to those girls. Give the man any money. Like it's kind of disheartening to see people working with Kanye again. And I mean, like I guess it is still like a rare thing for people to like stick to their morals and not work with someone even though it might be a lucrative payday. You know, that's still like a rare thing for people that's a rare stance for people to take, and thus it should be celebrated. But
Yeah, it's shitty. There's also the, but I know him. He wouldn't do that crowd. Yeah. Which, in all fairness, like I could understand that stance. Like if you know a person personally, right? Like like a relative or something, and you have that initial cognitive dissonance where you're like, no, they couldn't have possibly done that, right? And I would hope that like people, when faced with like insurmountable evidence that no, they are that person, you just didn't know them that way, that they would be able to be like, okay, I guess I really didn't know them at all, um, which is sad. But when it's like celebrities that like people come into the defense of celebrities and they don't even know the celebrities, they just like their work. It's like, come on, man. Like you don't know this person. They could very well be that kind of person. You don't know. There are people who worked with Bill Cosby for years who had no idea that he was like drugging and raping women behind the scenes because he wouldn't let them know that, right? And I'm sure there were plenty of people who, well, I mean, there's evidence that there are police officers who knew what he was doing because like these women would call the cops on him, but they did absolutely nothing because of Bill Cosby. But it's like you never know what people are capable of. I read a headline about the baby, which sounded so insane. I thought, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you never know with people. All right, there we go. Here's these five. So we will put this down. We'll wash off our brush, and then we'll let this dry for a second. Then we'll take this tape off. Let's see if I missed anything in my notes while we're waiting for this paint to dry a little bit. I don't think I did, but you never know. Oh, another thing that I wrote here for the times that I wished I was anyone but myself. This one, again, is just kind of like a. I mean, we were in grade like four or something, so it's just 10-year-olds being 10-year-olds and being you know mean and just being 10-year-olds. Um, I like to think that they grew up to be a better person, but there was a person who was in my grade who uh, was telling me about the. He called it. I don't know what illness it was, but it was an illness. Like if you, it was basically like if you can cover your entire face with your hand, you're sick. And I forget what the sickness was, but you were sick. Um, and I was like, "What? Really?" And he's like, "Yeah. So try to cover your face with your hand." So I did, and then like he hit my hand, and of course I popped myself in the nose. Um, and they ran off laughing. I was like, "Okay, you know." Ah, maybe it was that. Yeah, yeah. It was cancer. But yeah, yeah. So I fell victim to that. Um, it felt
Felt a little low for a bit, but it's all right. He, at least when I finished high school, like he seemed to be a pretty mature person who didn't do that kind of stuff anymore. So that's good at least. You always hope people grow up and they learn that you shouldn't do those types of things. Ah, okay, this is really good tape. I'm quite impressed with how well it kept the paint from bleeding over. Oh, I forgot to angle this down. There we go. Yeah, we got some nice crisp lines. Not bad at all. Not bad. I just need to touch something up here. Bear with me. Where'd it go? There. I mean, I think that's going to get covered by someone's face anyway, so it should be fine. All right. Next bit of tape. Tape pulling is satisfying. Very satisfying. When you get to crumple the big ball of tape at the end. All right, we put this around to get this last straight. And then we will put this one aside. We'll start taping up the next one. You should make a short video, go viral for tape. Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. Like some ASMR for you. There we go. That's two of them down. So we'll put this off to the side to dry. Up here. Yeah. And we'll grab this last one, we'll tape it up, then we'll do some painting on it. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to paint this one while it's sitting on the ground, because like I said, I forgot to put hooks on this one. So, like hooks and wire, but that's okay. So,
we'll grab our tape and then we'll see where I have to tape this one, because this next one, the first one we did is going to be yellow, a very pale blue, and a very pale brown. Then the previous one we just did is going to be the same yellow. It's the same yellow across all three of them. The same yellow, a very pale purple, and a very pale red. And then this one's going to be a pale blue, a pale yellow, and a pale green. So let's see, which ones are this? So it'll be the second one, and this one, this one, this one, and then two. Okay, so I used to have I was kind of lucky. I didn't really get bullied all that much when I was a kid. Yeah, some kids that would make fun of my weight a little bit and made fun of the fact that I was like this smart kid when I was in elementary school. Um, there were a couple of kids who did that. But the only real bully that I had, I got very lucky uh, in that they didn't really do much to me physically. They would just take my honeycombs every time I brought them to school. And then one day I didn't have honeycombs and he never bothered me again. So I got very lucky with that when it came to bullying, because I know a lot of people were not nearly as lucky. It's two more, right? So this one, two, this one, two, this one. Then I know sometimes, I know this probably isn't the case for everybody, but every once and again I'll look back at my time in school and I'll kind of worry, like, did I end up bullying anybody? You hope that you didn't, but you don't really know. At least well, I mean, some people know that they were bullies, but I hope I didn't bully anybody, or I hope nothing I did was perceived as bullying. Okay. And then it's one. There we go. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, And there's two more in this one, right? Yeah. This one's a little more evenly spaced. The other two. Which I did on purpose. All right. So like I said, I don't have the wire on this one, so we're just going to paint it here. Didn't mean to click that. There we go. Do you plan to do the sketches of each face and cut them up to go on the canvas, like with transfer paper? Or, I don't know. I think I was planning on just sketching them out on the canvas without transferring them over. But I'm not sure. Transfer paper, that would also, that's also a good idea. I'm undecided on that as of right now. But that's not a bad idea. All right. Way too lazy to eyeball that shit. Fair. Fair. That's understandable. All right. Okay. Here we go. Yeah, I'm glad I decided to do these with just yellow and white, because having the black in there too, like to kind of gray out the white, that was it made it too dark and too streaky. Glad I decided not to keep doing that. This song sounds like the backing of like a Joji song. Like I could hear Joji doing some like sad boy verses to this. Just realized I was making those weird faces with my mouth again while I paint.
Okay, there's one. This one. Got some paint on my wall. If you keep getting paint on the wall, eventually it's a statement instead of a mistake. Ah, that is true. That is very true. I feel like the statement will be I'm sloppy. I'm too loosey goosey with my paint. Of course, you could end up like Francis Bacon, where they didn't only preserve his paints, but I think they like did a recreation of what his studio looked like. His studio was notoriously messy, with like dried paint piled up in like piles and like paints all over the walls and paint tubes all over the place. Like I work well in a mess, but not like that. His studio seemed a lot more like filth to me than just straight up mess. But different strokes, I guess. Sanities. I don't paint physically enough for that pigsty. Yeah, yeah. No, it's just like at a certain point, it's just disgusting. I tell you though, I they always say those questions like, if there was one person from history that you could choose to have a conversation with, who would it be? And it's like, man, I don't know. There's too many people from history that I think would be fascinating to have a conversation with. One of them for me would be Francis Bacon. I'm always fascinated by like conversationalists and people who are like documented, like, you could talk to them for hours and the conversation would be riveting all the way through. And he was one of those types of people. It's like, man, I wish I was one of those people. I was always jealous of people who had paint covered desks that looked really good. If I did it, it looks bad. Fair, fair. Yeah, yeah, no, same. Like if I were to have everything just covered in paint, it would look like a disaster. people would be like, "Come on, man, like, clean yourself up. What are you doing?" Although I will say the nice thing about having a house is, if I do get paint on these walls, I don't have a landlord to worry about, like fixing up the wall when we move out. I don't have to go out and buy some paint and fix it up. It's a nice little bit of freedom from that. Go. We're getting there. We're getting there. I gotta trim my mustache and my beard. Getting like hair in my mouth. Okay, so we're gonna flip that around and we'll do the last two. My dinner should be here soon, so I may go incommunicado at that point. Hey, no worries. No worries at all. What's for dinner? There we go. But I will say I'm happy to be the guy you can sit in comfortable silence with. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it. Cause I'm that guy too. Fried rice, nice, nice. Fried rice is tasty. Yeah, that is a good point. I will sit in comfortable silence with you. Yeah, no worries at all. You gotta go incommunicado. We've just got two more of these to do, and then I'm gonna peel off the paint and then tape, and then that'll be streamed, I think. A little bit too pale on this. Need to put a little bit more yellow in it. Oh, and now one more. There we go. All right. So now we can start peeling this tape off. We'll start from the other side because this paint will be a little bit more dry than what we just did. This will be our last little bit of ASMR. Before the end of the stream. Oh, it's going off beautifully. It's always a good idea to pull away from the paint or the charcoal if you're using tape. Always good to pull away from it as perpendicularly as you can. Oh, we had a little bit of spill over there. That's all right. That'll get covered up. That way the tape won't accidentally maybe like hit the work that you just did. Which almost happened to me earlier. I am the best at not taking my own advice. I don't know if you guys have noticed that over the time that I've been doing these streams. But and of course, this stuff's still like fairly wet. But it's a very clean line. Very happy with that. There we go. A big old wad of tape. Good tape indeed. All right, y'all. Well, I think that's gonna do it for today. Like I said, we did a lot of prep work today, preparing for future work that's gonna have a little bit more substance to it. But you can't have the substantive work, substantive. That's the word I'm looking for. You can't have substantive work without all the prep work to go beforehand. So it was a good session today. Plus, I got to lay out to y'all what I'm planning on doing. Been thinking about getting into thinking a lot about watercolors, and I want to get back into it, but I gotta find my cold press. Fair. Yeah. Well, hopefully you're able to find it. Yeah. Here, I'll angle this way so that you can see at least two of the canvases that we worked on. No, thank you for hanging out, El. I appreciate it. Yes, I will be back tomorrow at 4:15 p.m. Eastern, playing some Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. We will be back to these paintings on Thursday at 6 p.m. So same time as usual. My schedule will be changing soon, where instead of Tuesdays, I'll be streaming Paper Mario on Wednesdays instead. So it'll be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday. So yeah, but that won't be for another couple of weeks. But I'll try to raid you Thursday. Well, I appreciate that. By all means, you don't have to. You don't have to. But Sketch Day is back. Nice. Well, I'll have to tune in on a Thursday to see that. All right.
This blood blister. Um, all right. So normally I would raid out, but well, maybe we'll go raid base Windu. Actually, base Windu's a good dude. Playing some Super Mario World hacks right now, which those always make me laugh. But yeah, thank you all for hanging out. Oh, I should mention. Um, oh no, I gotta fix the raid message. But the raid message is this raid's got soul. You can use whatever emojis you want around that. I gotta fix things so that you can use some of my emojis for it. But tell them hi for me dinner. Ah, yes, I definitely will. I definitely will. But yeah, hopefully we'll see y'all tomorrow for some Paper Mario and back here on Thursday for some more art. But if not, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your week if I don't see you. So, thanks for hanging out and take it easy, everybody.